San Francisco is facing one of the most challenging defenses once again this week in the Cleveland Browns. While their record is just 2-2, they've only given up 500 yards passing. That's good for number 1 in the NFL. The majority of this game's burden for the Cleveland Browns will fall on the shoulders of the defense. Deshaun Watson is out, meaning PJ Walker will face Steve Wilks, a coordinator who's already familiar with him due to their days in Carolina together. The Browns defense isn't just dominant in the passing game though, they're also dominant in the rushing game, giving up the fewest yards once again in the league, coming in at 287 yards, with an average of only 3.2 yards per carry. So with the Browns defense playing lights out, whether you look at their rushing or passing, it leads to the question how Brock Purdy will actually perform against them. And in this video, I want to break down Brock Purdy's superpowers and how that's going to help him destroy the Cleveland Browns. To start, while many people would skim over Brock Purdy's athletic profile, I'm actually going to argue one of his stats here are borderline elite, specifically his 10-yard split. The 10-yard split is a measure of a player's short area burst or quickness. And you can think of this in a quarterback scenario as his escapability within the pocket. By having a 10-yard burst that's extremely elite, you have a higher chance of being able to get out of the pocket and get on the move. While having a 40-yard dash might be more beneficial to a player like a wide receiver who often runs more in a straight line than a quarterback ever will. And Brock Purdy's 10-yard split is a straight out elite. He runs his in 1.55 seconds. That's the same as Christian McCaffrey and only 0.01 seconds slower than Lamar Jackson, one of the premier rushing quarterbacks across the entire league. And while a counter argument could easily be Brock Purdy's only put up 24 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns, the fact is his escapability and movement within and outside the pocket has been one of the most important factors to his success up to this point in his career, but not the only one. The next key trait that I think many people just flat out ignore when speaking about Brock Purdy's emergence this year, and if we're honest, just emergence since he stepped on the field, is him throwing with anticipation. And while this goes hand in hand with processing, it also signifies a quarterback who's able to see the field before it actually develops. He knows where the linebackers are going to go, he knows where his wide receivers are going to break. This is an indicator of a truly elite quarterback. Take a guy like Tom Brady, he never shocked anyone with his measurables, but what he was able to do is know what was going to happen on the field before it happened. When you watch Brock Purdy, he seems to know exactly what's going to happen before it happens, and that's due to how much he goes over everything. Purdy is the perfect fit for Kyle Shanahan. They're both kind of obsessed with football. Take this next play for instance. You see Deebo Samuel on the bottom of your screen, and when he starts breaking inwards, Purdy's ball has already left his hands and flying over the middle of the field. It's a beautiful completion with beautiful anticipation by Brock Purdy. An elite throw. While that anticipation might not have been enough for some people, let's look at one of Brock Purdy's touchdown passes to George Kittle. Right now we can see the signature motion, and once again George Kittle's on the bottom left and he's before his break, Purdy's throwing it. Let's look at that one more time. Slowing Purdy now down once again from his top of the drop. We see George Kittle not yet out of his break, but Purdy is already setting up to throw, and he's throwing before Kittle's even reached his break. And once again, we see the result, a beautiful pass and coordination from George Kittle to Brock Purdy for one of their 3 touchdowns on the day. While some people will look at plays like this, when Brock Purdy hits Christian McCaffrey in the flat and just call him a dink or dunk quarterback, but they're missing a huge picture of Brock Purdy's game, because Brock Purdy is a playmaker, exhibited by this next play where he hits Juwan Jennings. Purdy, regardless if they're up 30 points, will always be looking for that big shot, and he throws with anticipation as well as having a borderline elite athletic skill set. So for these reasons and a whole lot more, I think Brock Purdy should be in line for MVP voting and definitely looks like the Niners franchise quarterback. Furthermore, even though the Niners have one of the biggest challenges facing the #1 defense across the entire NFL in the Cleveland Browns, I do think they'll continue their strong outings, especially on offense, and the score will be around 30-10. But these are just my thoughts on this game, and I'd like to hear your thoughts down below. It would also mean a ton to me if you liked and subscribed. And as always, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.